welcome back to The Issue Is. Good to see you.
Good to be with you.
How's it feel to be out again, to be out in the field? It's got to feel good.
Yeah, because it's one thing to intellectualize vaccination numbers and data and trend lines, but to actually come close and to meet people who have been impacted, it reminds you what this thing's all about. Behind every statistic, every data point is a human being, a real story, a real journey. And to be here at a public housing site and to see people that never imagined the state of California, federal government ever coming to their community makes you feel good.
And speaking of that, the people that are most impacted by this, of course, are the Latino community in our state, African Americans as well. On this day, you're focused on both of those groups. What is your bottom line message to those groups who historically have been hesitant in some cases to seek help?
That we need my personal message, we got to be held to a higher level of accountability. We're not performing as we should. We own that. Not only as a state, but as a nation. To do justice begin a year ago was around testing, now it's around vaccination. We're behind where we need to be. So what today's really about is acknowledgement of that and really trying to go in a granular way, not just rhetorical way. I'm not saying we're trying, but I want to see that we're doing it. Now, question is scale, because there's hundreds of projects like this that we've got to do the same thing, and that's a question of vaccine availability, limited manufactured supply. Once we address that, then it's incumbent upon us to replicate this everywhere.
And that issue of vaccine supply at the core of the issue of when do we get kids back in school as well. I know you're setting aside 10% of vaccines for teachers in this state, but what is, I've asked you this question before, but I'll ask it again. What is the biggest obstacle to getting kids back into schools? And do you think that every teacher needs to get vaccinated before kids go back to school?
I agree with the CDC. I agree with Dr. Fauci. I agree with the President of the United States that would be optimal. That would be ideal, but that should not be the limiting factor in terms of being able to get our youngest kids safely back into school. The data, the science bears out we can do that. So I think, frankly, at this stage, there's nothing that's holding us back. It's a question now of leadership, demonstrable leadership. Get it done. You're seeing places like Long Beach, they're starting to get it done. We can get it done. TK to 2, 3 to 6, special needs, foster, homeless kids. We can do this, we can do it safely. And as you noted, we are prioritizing our teachers. 75,000 vaccines a week. Already 35 counties are prioritizing teachers. This will provide more clarity, certainty in terms of the availability of supply.
But you said it's an issue of leadership. You are the leader of the state.
Well, it's 1,050 school districts.
Yeah.
And the end of the day, the state of California put out a plan in December.
Right.
We put up $6.6 billion of additional funding, working with the legislature to get those dollars out. We've already provided 3 months of PPE, 3 months. We have a new school hub. We have more data, more accountability in terms of being able to be more accountable to those schools that are not safely reopened. And we're putting aside 75,000 doses of vaccine. At the end of the day, we can get this done. There's nothing that stops local districts right now, based on what the state has put out, from safely reopening. And we want to just say this clear as we can. Our youngest kids, youngest cohort, need to get back into school. And young kids have young parents.
Right.
And those parents, especially single moms, desperately need that support.
You know, this is happening at the same time where there is this recall drive going. Now, most of that is funded, of course, by Republicans who are targeting a deep blue state. But there also is some angst with some Democrats who voted for you and are frustrated by the state of the state, frustrated on the pandemic response. What's your message to those people?
Focusing every day, 7.3 million vaccines have been administered, surpassing Israel. There's only 6 other countries in the world that have administered more vaccines. We are literally administering more vaccines than we receive on a weekly basis. We've got surplus, likes of which we haven't seen in some time, that's allowed us to put $3.8 billion in a Golden State stimulus in the hands of 5.7 million vulnerable Californians, $2.5 billion of grants to small businesses. So look, this state is on track to be at a completely different place in a few months, get our kids back into school. That's what I'm focused on exclusively.
So what do you say specifically to the teachers unions that are concerned, that are petrified of going back into school and that are saying we don't feel safe?
I deeply respect that, totally understand that concern, and I recognize you can't teach without teachers. I have reverence for teachers, totally respect their strong advocacy to demand that we do this safely. And all I'm saying is we can do this safely. I'm more optimistic, not pessimistic, about that, based upon the data, based upon the facts, based upon the evidence around the rest of the world, based upon Dr. Fauci's own assertions, based upon our own health folks. based upon the fact we're setting aside 75,000 doses of vaccine, based on the fact we've given 3 months of free PPE, we'll do more than that. Based on the fact we have $6.6 billion ready to go out to support that cause.
And last question, we've talked so often over the years, and even before you were governor, I'm wondering about where you are at this moment in time. You said you see the bright lights at the end of the tunnel. Where do you see California going in the next 6 months, the next year? Where are we at?
Well, we're in a remarkable place. I mean, the fact is, Bloomberg came out with their innovation index. California's still #1. 2020, more venture capital in California than 2019. We had all these new IPOs in the state. We're running surpluses that allow me to say this. We have the highest reserves in California history. We're putting billions of dollars back in the pockets of the most vulnerable Californians. We've gotten 23,000 people off the street. They're homeless. We have tons more work to do in that place. We have a housing strategy, housing plan. We lead the nation in low carbon green growth. I'm incredibly optimistic about this state. A few more months, get through this transition, get this behind us, and this state's ready to take off and dominate in terms of some of the most exciting and enlivening industries in this world, and bring people together and address the issue of poverty once and for all.
Yeah, and hopefully the next time we do this, we can do it without a mask on.
We may have a few more of these first, but then eventually,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, Governor,
we're both vaccinated.
Great to see you. Thank you for taking time. We really appreciate it.
Good to be with you.